Well, I bought a brand new MG TD in '53, and I guess like a lot of people today they start with a TD, maybe go to a TC, then the TF, and this is what I did, and I went to a TA, then the TB, then I had the T series, and then I started getting into the pre-war cars without just collecting the alphabet, because MG went through the alphabet, and it was kind of easy. We just Q-type, R-type, P-types, and it just started from there and kind of grew.
When was the first year that you were officially opened as a museum?
In 1984. Yeah, we opened May 30th, '84.
And you have a total of how many cars on display?
There are 28 different models on the main floor, and then I have 10 in the back room under restoration. So there would be 38 different models total.
You also operate a MG parts company. So just out of curiosity, what is the connection between your collecting cars, the museum, and the Abingdon Spares operation? In essence, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, no, like I said, I bought a brand new one in '53, and then I bought a wrecked TD and started to restore it. Then I found I had to buy a chassis for it because the chassis was so far gone. And I went to a junkyard in Quincy, Massachusetts, and they had like 30 T-types in the junkyard. It was, at that time, I pointed to this particular one, and they just rolled it over and they gave me the chassis from it. And so I started restoring them. And then first thing I discovered, my telephone started ringing, and people heard I had extra parts. So I thought of the idea, well, perhaps I should go in the parts business. So at the time, I was a member of the Boston Symphony, playing the trumpet, and I used to tour with the orchestra all over the country. So I would call up these dealers in all these cities we would come to, and I would say on the phone, do you want to get rid of your old, obsolete MGT type spares? Yes. They would say, come on down and get this junk out of here. And this is how I collected all these parts. So that was the beginning of Abingdon Spares.
And what year was that you opened the Abingdon?
Well, seriously, it started in '65. January '65, I bought out Inskip in New York. And that's what got me going. No, excuse me. I bought out Hanson McPhee in '65. And about the same time, I bought out Inskip in New York. But before that was a New England distributor, Hanson McPhee. Was called.
Do you have any idea how many people come through the museum during the season that you're open?
Well, it's highly specialized,
Yeah.
We've had people come here, and some of them don't like the idea. It's this one make car, I mean, well, maybe they're right. I mean, would you want to go to a Ford museum, see nothing but Fords? I mean, some people would, But I think it's a restricted audience, But no, I don't know. We probably get 4,000 or 5,000 people a year. This is a 1933 J4 all-out racing car. Doors do not open here, which makes this a little different than the other J's, plus a supercharger. And this is one of the original Power Plus superchargers. This happens to be number 8. Normally they were number 6. Number 6 was used, but as an option you could buy a number 8, and this is what this is, a large one, number 8. I drove this car in a vintage race at Watkins Glen in 1979. We had a vintage car race prior to the Grand Prix of the United States. And I was going along happily. Suddenly I hit a bump in the road on number 11 turn, I believe, where the old course met the new course. There was a lip in the pavement. And I felt it going around each time, but this time I got a little bit more airborne, and I found myself going over twice. And I was upside down, as you can see from this photograph, pin underneath. We have seat belts.
What do you feel is the appeal of the MG? What is the thing that attracts you to it? Or obviously you have quite a collection here, and you started a while ago, and it's just been building. What can you characterize that? What would you say is the?
Well, the first thing I was living not very far from Boston in an apartment on Gainsborough Street, and every morning I would hear this engine in the back of the apartment, in the parking lot. It was an MGTD, and this fellow went to work before I did, and he would wake me up every morning, and I would run to the window, and there was the sound of the engine. Being a musician, my ears are pretty well tuned to sound, and I couldn't. You never heard a sound that way in '53. No car had that sound. And I got interested in the sound more than anything else. And then the way he would go down this unpaved road in the back, and there was a lot of potholes, and the wheels were bouncing, and he was just going down. And that really got my attention, and I went out and tried one, at a dealership. And I think the first thing that I remember, not only it had a 4-speed transmission, which was pretty unheard of at the time, but I think it was the rack and pinion steering that I sensed immediately that it was, I couldn't keep it on the road. The thing was going, and I was used to playing with this play, and there was no play, I think that's what I really got interested in the thing, the way it handled. And I used to go to New York every month with the orchestra, traveling, and instead of taking the bus, I used to drive my TD, and I'd get there, I was never tired. 220 miles, and it's a very comfortable riding car.